in all my days, I have never heard any member of the government standing up to even question anything that the Prime Minister has said or has done. Not one. But yet he said, "Welcome to the Port's Garrison. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you." Greetings and welcome to the Port's Garrison. I am your host, Phil the Poet, and I thank you most profusely for stopping, for taking the time to just check to see what's going on in the garrison. Now, recently, I think it was earlier this month, maybe June 15th or thereabout, Prime Minister Andrew Holness, in addressing a party gathering in Hanover, made a very, very serious declaration. And he said, "We don't really need an opposition because our supporters hold us to account. In fact, our supporters are our staunchest constructive critics." Here, check out the Prime Minister.
We don't really need an opposition because our supporters hold us to account. In fact, our supporters are our staunchest constructive critics. And I've grown to respect and understand that about the party that I lead.
A very bold statement. I'm sure you will agree with me. Very, very bold. But in a democracy, it's not just bold, it's dangerous. And he's received some public backlash for this. You see, Holness contrasted the JLP supporters, whom he described as informed critics, with opposition supporters, implying the latter are irrational. Now, in all my days, I have never heard any member of the government standing up to even question anything that the Prime Minister has said or has done. Not one. But yet he said they are informed and they are his staunchest critics. The People's National Party has responded sharply. Dr. Dayton Campbell, the General Secretary, argued that Holness was sidelining all non-JLP voices.
I am Dr. Dayton Campbell, General Secretary of the People's National Party. I'm issuing a grave warning. Prime Minister Holness and his JLP cabinet are accelerating Jamaica's drift towards autocracy. Their recent actions reveal a deliberate, unmistakable pattern. The mask has fully slipped. The JLP leadership's conduct shows dangerous contempt for democracy when their deputy leader vows to never surrender Jamaica, framing the PNP not as legitimate competitors, but as an existential enemy that signals an intent for permanent rule, not democratic governance. And when the Prime Minister himself declares the JLP doesn't need the opposition for accountability, that dismisses Parliament's constitutional role. It rejects checks and balances. It's the language of a leader who believes is beyond scrutiny, a hallmark of authoritarianism. This is a clear and present danger. The Holness Cabinet's actions are a systematic assault on the pillars of our free society. Therefore, the PNP will relentlessly challenge the autocratic trajectory using every constitutional means at our disposal. I urge civil society.
Mark Golin, the leader of the opposition, warned that the statements undermines democracy itself. Now, the PNP is not the only body who was chastising the Prime Minister for his comments or commenting. Civil society, legal experts, and political commentators echoed the same concerns. Now, why does the opposition matter? In parliamentary democracies, the opposition isn't optional. It is fundamental because its core roles include accountability, questioning the government actions, checks and balances, that is, to prevent abuse of power, representation, ensuring that a voice is given to all citizens, to provide alternative policies, that is, to propose different solutions. Take that away, and what remains is not democracy, it's dictatorship in disguise. And there have been many global warnings. History offers stark warnings. In Russia, we have Putin, who silenced dissidents. In Turkey, Erdogan jailed opposition figures. In Venezuela, Maduro dismantled the legislature. In Hungary, Orban weakened the press and opposition to centralize control. And all this started by undermining the opposition.
The PNP Patriots expressed deep concern over the recent anti-democratic and dictatorship rhetoric coming from the Prime Minister and senior members of the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, which threatens the foundations of Jamaica's democracy. We recognize this ongoing sentiment as the current administration is embroiled in numerous corruption scandals. Whenever they are confronted about these issues, they resort to making undemocratic statements to intimidate concerned Jamaicans. The Prime Minister's declaration that his government does not need any opposition party is a dangerous and dictatorial statement that seeks to undermine this essential role of checks and balance in a democratic society.
Now ask yourself, is this the road we want Jamaica to travel? Is this the path we want for Jamaica? You see, there have been certain recent patterns in Jamaica, and we've seen signs. We have seen attacks on the media by officials of the government, people like Everett Warmington. We've never heard anybody really chastising. The only person in the government I've really seen attempt to stand up to him was Ed Bartlett. The Prime Minister, nah, he gets away with every and anything. Dismissal of critics on social media by the Prime Minister himself has been something we have seen quite often. He doesn't want anybody to criticize him. You got to agree with him. If you criticize him, it is disloyalty and bad mind. Bad mind. We've seen clashes with the Integrity Commission. And these reflect a growing tendency to equate criticism, as I said, with disloyalty. And it's an approach that erodes democratic values. See, Jamaica follows the Westminster model where the leader of the opposition is a constitutionally protected role. As I said before, the opposition has many jobs. Scrutinize legislation, monitor spending, investigate corruption, represent dissenting views. And can you imagine that Holness himself once held the position of opposition leader? Albeit, he was a different person then. He spoke a different tune. So when he was out of office, he spoke one thing. And when he was in office, there was no follow-through in the things he spoke of when he was opposition leader. But just think about it. He was, and he may again become the opposition leader. To dismiss that role is to undermine the bare essence of the Jamaican constitutional balance. History is one of our best teachers. Of course, remember, in 1983, the PNP boycotted the general elections. So the JLP won all 60 seats. So there was no opposition. What were the consequences? Controversial laws were passed unopposed. Public trust in the government declined significantly. International credibility suffered. Even Siaga later admitted an oppositionless parliament is a mistake. So if you cast your mind back to, say, 2011, between 2007 to 2011, when Bruce Golan was the Prime Minister, the opposition played a significant role during the Dudos extradition crisis in Tivoli Gardens, the Tivoli Gardens incursion. The PNP and the media pushed for a commission of inquiry, which exposed rights violation and held the government accountable, led to the crumbling of the government. Without the opposition, these abuses might never have been brought to light. Each time Jamaica weakened its opposition, whether by boycott or overreach, the results were more executive power, less transparency. And we see the fight against transparency. We see friends of the Prime Minister being put in high positions so they can dictate certain things. We see the fight against the Integrity Commission. We've seen the push to remove the Auditor General from the Integrity Commission. They're fighting against transparency. We've seen standing orders being used in the Parliament to delay or prevent some bills from being tabled, some reports from being read. It also leads to public backlash. Prime Minister Holness's comment isn't a slip of his tongue. It reflects a troubling philosophy that accountability can only come from within my own party, from within his own party, from his party supporters. And as I said before, I have not seen any level of dissent. In a little bit when in candidate selection, when people say, "Oh, if he's not this man, we don't vote," that kind of thing, but nothing major to say, "Look, this is the wrong thing you're doing here. Do it this way. We don't agree with you." So general elections are due constitutionally, I think, by September this year. So the debate about opposition and the relevance of an opposition is of utmost importance. To suggest that party supporters can replace the constitutional opposition is to confuse popularity with accountability. And that's a dangerous confusion. If you remember, Crystal Tomlinson, former PNP-YO president and former candidate for the PNP. You remember when she made the comment, some contrast and compare and contrast Prime Minister Holness with Hitler, saying that even Hitler came to power through democracy. You remember the backlash that she got? You remember that? Once the opposition was eliminated in Germany, atrocities followed. History tells us democracy dies when dissent is silent. In Jamaica, we can't afford to do it. But this is political silly season. But the Prime Minister, I can't say I expect better because his utterances, I mean, there are people demonstrating in Jamaica against an action of the government. And what the Prime Minister do? He encourages his own supporters to have a counter demonstration, conflict, animosity that can lead to any sort of things. Reckless by the Prime Minister to encourage his own supporters to go have a counter demonstration on the same day, the same time. Not to say, okay, let's demonstrate tomorrow or another day. Reckless. The opposition isn't a convenience. It is the cornerstone of freedom. So whether you support the JLP, the PNP, or no P at all, Jamaica needs a viable opposition. A strong opposition. The opposition now is imbalanced because of the numbers of the government is strong, and so they can push through whatever they want to push through. And they can shoot down or vote down anything that the opposition proposes. But at least the opposition's voice will be heard and must be heard. Because when leaders say they don't need one, it is not just a political statement. It is a flag. Color the flag however you want to color it, red or green, but it's a flag. Andrew, you've got to be careful about the things you say. Because, as I said, it's political silly season, and people will run around and say whatever comes to their mouth. And we don't know you as no man. We seriously reprimand anybody for taking or saying certain things. The fact that Wilmington still exists today shows that you're complicit to certain things that he says and does. the opposition is necessary to hold you in check, to hold the government in check. So you can't just go change some law for illicit enrichment, not to be a crime or whatever it is you want to do to please your own ends. The opposition have to say, no, let's go to court, let's go to the Supreme Court, let's get a ruling on this. My viewers, I thank you for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Prime Minister declaring that the opposition is not needed. I wonder what he will say when he forms the next opposition. Let me hear your thoughts. As always, I want to thank you for watching. Share the video, comment, and until next time, as always, is enough love, enough manners, and enough respects. Thanks for watching.